Hi everyone. Today I'd like to talk with you guys about Mercury retrograde. And what that is that's when the planet Mercury seems to be going backwards in the sky, and it rules communication, travel, electronics, commerce. Those are the areas of Mercury's influence. And so those things don't go as smoothly as they normally do during a regular period. And we might experience things like traffic delays, flight delays, appointments getting rescheduled or canceled or postponed. We might find that there's a little bit more chance of misunderstanding or miscommunication, or maybe you accidentally sent an email that you really didn't mean to send to somebody. We also have to be careful of being impulsive in our communications with people, because if you tend to say the first thing that pops into your head right now, people might misinterpret what you're trying to say, or you might say something that you really didn't mean to say to somebody had you had more time to think about it and reflect. So it's a time when we want to think about what we're saying and doing rather than just kind of jumping into saying something that either we don't mean or that doesn't come across as well. So sometimes astrologers can have a sort of doom and gloom perspective on Mercury retrograde, because there's a sense that we can't do anything new. So they'll tell you don't start a new job, don't start a new business, don't undergo any major projects, don't have surgery, don't buy electronics, those sorts of things. And while those things are valid and they can be important, as far as not rushing into doing anything new, what I want to talk with you today is about how to use this period constructively. What are the things that you can do and would be beneficial to do, as opposed to focusing on everything that you shouldn't be doing? Now, that being said, I would suggest waiting to start any new businesses or major new projects during the retrograde, because right now the focus is on going back to the past and on kind of reviewing and reflecting and learning from past experiences, or maybe even picking up old projects that you'd set aside for a while because you couldn't quite figure out how to work it out. Those are the things that Mercury is asking us to do right now. So doing a lot of new projects really doesn't quite fit with where the energy is flowing. So we want to flow with the energy rather than against it. And one of the ways we can flow with it is to take the time to pause, to take a step back. It's a good time for reevaluating our goals, for thinking about where we are and where we want to go, and the things that we can do to improve. It's also good, as I said, to think about how we're communicating with others and how what we say comes across to other people, and taking a moment to sort of pause before we have important discussions, so that we can kind of hopefully make sure that the other person understands where we're coming from. And if you've been having a lot of difficulties with heavy emotional experiences or childhood traumas or anything like that, this might be a time when you would want to do some journaling, or you might want to consider going to therapy or joining a support group, something that allows you to take the past and to either learn from it or reframe it or move through it, so that it's not this heavy load on you anymore, and you can kind of move through that and take the good things from the past and let the other things go. Also, we can take this time to reorganize our physical space. So we can do any house repairs that we've been putting off, or computer repairs, or we can just kind of reorganize and clear out clutter and things like that, things that will help us to be a little bit more better focused once Mercury's out of retrograde. Or if you need to reevaluate your business goals and thinking about, where you are now versus where you want to go. Maybe the goals, your 10-year plan or your 5-year plan that you had, isn't working as well as you'd hoped, and maybe you want to go back and you want to think about how these goals are serving you and how achievable they are. Maybe you need to break it down into smaller steps, or maybe you need to take out one goal and shift it and put a new goal in. It's also a good time to research. So if you were planning to start a new business or you are looking for a job, you can take this time to do research and to plan. It's a great time for planning. Or if you need to update your resume and you need to follow up with old colleagues and get new references and things like that. So that would be a good use of Mercury retrograde energy. And if you are job searching, if you encounter an opportunity with a company you've worked with in the past, that's a little bit more favored during this period. So if an old boss tells you about a job opportunity, or if you've interviewed with a company before and maybe that particular job didn't work out, but you really like the company and you'd like to work for them, then it might be a good idea to apply for a new job with that company. We typically don't want to start something brand new, but if we've had connections from the past associated with the job, then tends to be a little bit more favorable. I would still suggest being slightly cautious, just because a lot of times when you take a job during a retrograde, either the job duties might not be exactly what was described, either because there might be a change in the company, like maybe somebody else gets laid off or a department gets restructured and you have to take on more tasks that weren't part of the original job description, or maybe the person who put up the job listing was using an old job listing and the managers decide to kind of restructure the position and they want to give you different tasks than what were initially described. And or just could be that the environment isn't what you thought it was, and then 6 months down the line you realize, oh hey, I'm not quite sure I really fit with this, or this isn't what I expected. So just keep those things in mind. But as far as positive uses of this energy, we can use this time to, like I said, reevaluate, reflect. I associate Mercury retrograde with rewords. So words like review, reconnect, repair, reflect, reorganize. All of those things are great things to do during the retrograde. So we just want to focus on the inner things as opposed to focusing on doing. We want to focus on being and feeling and looking at how that's affecting where we are and how we're using our energy, and to see if we can use our energy and our thoughts more appropriately. It might also be a time to kind of think about the way that you communicate with yourself and your partner, because sometimes we can have a lot of negative self-talk and we can put ourselves down and be overly critical of ourselves. And this might be a good time to reflect on what's your relationship with yourself? What kind of thoughts are you thinking about on a day-to-day basis? What sort of things are you telling yourself? And if you have a lot of negative feedback from just the mental chatter that goes on, then this could be a time to try to move away from that and to think consciously about what we're thinking at this time and how we're speaking to other people and how we're speaking to ourselves. Hopefully this period will be relatively smooth for you and you can take this time to kind of refocus and to reflect and to take a step back from all the activity. And sometimes what that could mean is taking a break, maybe taking a weekend vacation or planning for your vacation now and thinking about doing something fun. This is a great time to go to places that you've been to in the past that you haven't gone to in a while. So, maybe as a child you took a trip to San Francisco or New York and you'd really love to go back again. This would be a good time to reconnect with places from your past and to enjoy that time. So we might want to use the energy to just sort of take a break and relax and to focus on self-care and instead of just kind of being super busy doing things and not really taking the time to kind of chill out and sort of move away from our obsessive mental focus on things. Maybe take a break from spending all our time on Facebook and Twitter and those sorts of things, and just sort of relax and enjoy time with friends and family. It's a great time to reconnect with relatives and friends that you haven't seen in a long time. So if you have had a friend on your mind and you haven't talked to them in 5 years, this is a great time for you to reach out and say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I'd really like to, chat or hang out. That's an awesome use of the Mercury retrograde energy. So hopefully this video was helpful for you and you can use this time to do some things that maybe you've put off doing in a while. If you have any comments or suggestions, you can post them below. And I wish you all a wonderful weekend, and I hope you have a smooth retrograde. Thank you.